Hello and welcome to Story of a Storyteller.
Greetings, greetings, lords and ladies of the internet.
I was thinking I have to call this episode something different because you're the first ever guest to return.
Am I the first return? Oh, I'm the first one back to the Shire. Oh, brilliant.
First one back to the Shire. Excellent. So yeah, just for the listeners, I'm sure I'll say this in the intro, but one thing I love about this podcast, and Eve, you'll understand this now, is that I meet so many people, but there's some people just after the podcast we stay in touch and we become really good friends, or as good a friend as you can become not seeing people because, you know, COVID. So it's just great to get to make friends through it, and you're the first friend back, so welcome back, friend.
Yay. Oh, thank you so much. And it's true. It's funny what you say, because you know yourself, putting your creative self, which just sounds very American, but putting your creative self online, you can kind of approach people that you kind of know through liking each other's tweets and stuff. So, I mean, I've literally emailed people going, hey, we're in the same city and I've liked your tweets and you've liked my tweets. So we're kind of friends now. By the way, you can just kind of introduce yourself. Well, I do anyway.
It's a foot in the door, isn't it? When you're interacting on social media like that.
Yeah, and you soon find your people. Very quickly, you soon find your people. And I think that's important. You don't need many, but as you say, like to find friends who get, like, I could message you and be like, oh, blah, 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 Kindle, blah, 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 AMS, blah. You'd be like, girl, yeah. Get it. Yeah.
But one of the things I thought it would be great to get you back is because so first of all, it was January when we had you last, and it's July now as of recording this. So it's just cool because you've done a lot since then.
I've had the busiest.
You've had you've done. I mean, there's been big life things, and then there's been big writing things, and
Yes.
we've actually, like, for people listening and watching, we've been talking already for like 25 minutes. Before we hit record, and he was like, should we record the podcast? I'm like, oh yeah, we really should.
I was like,
So,
this is fantastic, Connor, but do you want to like do your job?
yeah. I'm here to help you. Like, go on, man. So how's life been? What's the story been like since you're on season 2, episode 10?
Season 2, episode 10. It's mad that you say January, because if you were to say, oh, since you were last on, I'd be like, oh yeah, like 2 years ago. It's like that much stuff has happened to fill 2 years. But the kind of short and sweet by the curlies of it is, since January, let's see. First book, Rise of One, won a medal and was a finalist in this indie author competition, The Wishing Shelf, it's called, which was fantastic. I'm just going to randomly throw out events because the sequence makes no sense anymore. Time is an illusion. We are creatures of unknown dimensions. I got married. I currently have the Hope Diamond on my finger, as I like to call it. And I published book 2 is out in like 2 days as of recording this. So that is like done, edited, formatted, uploaded, approved, ready to go. It was my birthday. It was the new groom's birthday. Got my first vaccination. Like, that's just June. So I can't even remember the valley between January and were there months? Maybe. I was there, kind of.
Who knows? So yeah, you, like, a lot has happened. And yet you seem a lot more I don't say put together, you just seem a lot more zen with your hectic life. You're a person that likes to be busy.
That's true. I think, okay, I'm so glad we're all sitting down. I hope you're all sitting down, listeners. We're gonna crack up. No, I have kind of been really reading up in the last 6 months of how do I do this? How do I do a complicated legal full-time job? How do I balance that with my ambitions to be like a full-time indie author and run my own publishing company, and also like be a spouse, be a woman, be a person outside of that too, and that neither of those two things rule my life. So I've been reading a lot on how to do that. And if I look particularly zen, it's because I've kind of come across some things that have helped. So what I'm talking about is I'm a huge gamer. I love video games and I will game shamelessly. I'm a very old person now. I am like, how old am I now? 37, I think. And will game shamelessly. What I've learned from gaming. So the concept of like, what's your main quest? My main quest full-time indie author, and I have a number in my head that I want to reach in terms of like average annual salary that will,
Okay, yeah.
be good.
So you have a clear definition of what that means to you, which I think is
Yeah.
really important. You
Oh,
can't just say, I want to be this when I grow up.
I
And
want to be
then,
a writer, mommy. No, you can't say that. Like, okay, what's your
yeah,
what's your annual target salary? How many books do you need to sell to do that? What's the average monthly Kindle? You need your data. But anyway, so basically your main quest. And so when you get up in the morning, if you're a gamer, you can progress the main quest at any point. You don't need to be the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning when you log into the game. You have side quests to do. Like you have to generate your gold. You have to level your skills. You have to, and to me, leveling skills is like clean your teeth, brush your hair, wash your face, hygiene skills, your hygiene meter if you're a sim,
life skills.
life skills. And you have your dailies, the things you need to do every day. So for me, it's like having this main quest that I'm on, and then there's side quests. And for me, that was some kind of weird kind of like in my little brain realignment of how to juggle, how to make this work. And then also kind of, I consider myself a lady of science. I'm not into crystals or woo or anything like that, but some of the Americans have been a bad influence on me. And I've been watching like, the productivity dudes and all the rest. And I don't take too much stock on what they say because they come from a different environment, say, than what we're in.
Very much,
But
yeah.
the idea of, now don't everybody turn off the minute I say this, the idea of the abundance mindset. Because Connor, being Irish, the kind of, oh no, I couldn't be doing that. Hide your light under a bushel.
We were both doing that before we hit record. Like,
that's why I called you out on it.
You did.
And it's the very much kind of, oh, I couldn't be, who am I to be going to do that, blah, blah, blah. And then other people, because the response from other people will be, who do they think they are to be? They're getting a bit too big for their boots. Let's knock them down. The nail that stands out will be hammered down. That's quite a cultural thing, I think, in Ireland. But the abundance mindset is approach life from abundance, from opportunity. And as an Irish person, it chafed against my little soul to try and do that.
Yeah, no, it really does. It's this weird thing of like, Bono is the example I always give when I'm talking about this mentality that is in Irish culture of you can't be talking about yourself too much, and you can't be, I don't want to say you can't be positive because it's not that. You just can't be, you can't have notions, which
don't be having notions.
Notions, yeah. Which, if anyone is a big fan of the podcast, you'll remember me explaining that to Margaret Gilmedi back in season 3. But yeah, it's this thing of, the reason I said Bono is, he's really well respected around the world for the most part because of, the charity work he does, and not so much these days, kind of more like early mid 2000s, he was a big name, and everyone in Ireland was like, that Egypt, no.
Literally, like when you say Bono, it was like feckin' Egypt. That just as a result, but like I don't think that, but everyone around me thinks that way, or the culture around me thinks that way. It's interesting though who can get away with it and who can't. So if you contrast Bono with Enya, and Enya is one of the people in life that I adore in terms of her career, in terms of what I'd like to emulate. I want to live in a castle on my own and have no one fucking come the fuck. Don't even look at me. Leave me alone. I'll speak to you over the internet. So Enya is actually very well respected. Enya is very well respected. And you don't hear people go, Enya, feckin' Egypt. Nobody says that. Because you finish the sentence there.
Because she keeps herself to herself.
She keeps herself to herself and she don't have notions.
Yes.
She has no notions.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's like you were saying then about this abundance mindset. Well, actually,
which I'm going to interrupt you there. I understand it's very American, and if I heard someone on a podcast shouting on about abundance mindset, I would turn it off. So I do apologize, Connor. Everyone's gone now. It's just us two again.
It's all right. Believe it or not, most of my listeners are American. So
Americans, you're all great, fantastic,
brilliant. But you're right. There is. Are you on TikTok?
Oh no, I'm very old, Connor. Listen,
you're not.
No, I just seem youthful because of my Korean skincare regime. That's it.
The reason I ask is the TikTok algorithm, for those who aren't on it, is terrifyingly good. Like within a couple of videos, it knows exactly what you like. And there's like a meme going around on it that TikTok figured out I was gay quicker than I did. But one thing keeps cropping up that I'm loving is American people, mostly, actually only women, strangely, who have moved to Ireland
Mm.
and are like, so here's this cultural thing I don't get it and I don't understand it, but it's amazing. And our differences between the States and Ireland. And it is really interesting because even though we're both two, Western civilizations that speak or cultures that speak English, there is a huge difference in mindset. And like even the whole thing of self-publishing, like in America, it's like, go for it, publish your book, make $1 million. Da, da, da. Whereas in Ireland, it's still back where indie publishing was 15 years ago of, oh, you did it yourself. Oh, so you're not a real.
And not so much looked down on as literally kind of denigrated a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's zero respect for it. And the Irish kind of writing institutions, which we shall go unnamed, have no mass on indie publishing, no mass on self-publishing. I mean, say my writing background is I came into writing in Ireland through poetry. So published poems had success in awards and festivals and nods and gongs and all that shite. And then you kind of slip into the circuit of being an Irish writer and the institutions, and you see the kind of lay of the cliques and the landscape and kind of the skullduggery that goes on. I got some great stories. Oh my God. We'd like Eve's writing bitching wine time or something. Put one in comments if you want.
New podcast coming soon.
Eve's bitching hour, the Irish writing center. Anyway, and I was just like looking around and I was like, I don't like any of this. If I wanted to write what I wanted to write, which is essentially vampires and zombies, even though I'm an award-winning published poet, blah, no one would entertain it. And they'd look down on it. And I'm like, well, if you're going to do that anyway, I'm going to go off into the hills by myself. Good luck to you. And I'll talk to the Americans directly who will actually kind of give a shit more than you will.
Yeah. And it's weird as well, though, because there's elements of, so you see the problem with publishing and indie writing, and here's Connor's rant, with traditional publishing, it has to go through so many different gatekeepers. Like for the most part in Ireland, for people outside of Ireland probably don't know this, in Ireland, most of the publishing houses that are based in Ireland, you can actually pitch them directly. You can submit your manuscript directly to the publisher and cut out the middleman of an agent, which I know is not the industry norm worldwide.
Don't do that if you're outside of Ireland. Don't do it. It won't work.
No. So outside of Ireland, you have to get an agent. Then the agent has to get you in the door to a publisher. Then the publisher has to decide if your book is what they want to sell. Note, I didn't say if it's good enough. I said if it's what they want to sell, which is a completely different thing. Then it has to go through editor and publisher, and then eventually it comes out, right? So with traditional publishing, there are so many hoops you have to jump through that people expect, well, it's going to be amazing and it's going to be perfect, right? So then when there's a typo, or I have something right here, I'm not going to show.
Oh, show and tell.
I'm not going to show the actual book.
Oh.
Just to be fair. I haven't read it. I'm sure it's really
Connor, that's not what wine time is about.
When you get something like this, so for the listeners, it's I know a lot of people hate this, when the edges of the book aren't trimmed properly, and it's that kind of like,
it's quite ragged,
which I kind of like it, but I know a lot of people hate it. If that happens with a traditionally published book, which it did there, people are going to be like, look, something has to get slipped through the cracks. It's fine. How many people went through it? But if that happened to an indie book, when that happens to an indie book, it's like, well, sure, of course, sure, they don't know what they're doing. If there's a typo, quality. It wasn't edited. It's just like,
and then 10 steps further, sure, who were they to be right? Sure, they couldn't be writing a book, and we're off down that road again.
Exactly.
Not to be putting words in people's mouth, but we have experienced it directly, and we are speaking our truth today.
Indeed, we are. So it's a weird kind of thing. So then, how have you experienced that? Considering that book 2 is creeping it. So it's weird. We're talking about it because it hasn't happened yet, but this is coming out and it will have happened.
Yes.
So book 2 is out now, by the way.
Space and Time are illusion. Buy my book.
Yes. So how are you finding? Have you noticed any change in that? Considering, well, now you have 2 books out.
Yeah. So what's very interesting is indie publishing. My first book was definitely kind of God love her. She couldn't make it as like a poet. She couldn't write real books, blah. Second book comes out or is on the way. And you can tell, like the emails that you get slowly shift,
Mm.
as in the way people speak to you, the way people approach you. I'm not talking about like bigger, larger people come your way. I'm talking just about a little bit more. I don't want to say respect because that sounds very kind of heavy, but I'm just like, huh, that's kind of interesting. Although on the other side, there's always those emails that will knock you right back down again. Because I don't know if you experienced this, Connor. I actually did want to kind of mention it because I literally just got one about 45 minutes before the podcast started. I get these emails always from men, 100% from men, never from women. And they are about
Yeah.
5 to 6 paragraphs long, telling me everything that's wrong in my little zombie vampire book. And they seem to sit down and just write these diatribes. I've gotten a few of them by now, and I'm like, huh, delete. And it is for me water off a duck's back because I genuinely don't care. But it's just very odd that that happens. Like you can get a wonderful, like I got an invitation to a Irish literary festival recently that is being held this summer, and it's to talk about publishing. And I'm like, oh yeah, brilliant, yeah. But at the same time, you'll get then like these emails as well.
Yeah.
So I think with indie publishing, you just have to stay in your lane, know your course, keep going. There's no point in having a breakdown or getting hysterical about either not getting any respect or random men telling you what you've done wrong. You just keep going. None of it matters.
Wrong in a book that you've created, in a world that you've created, in the rules that you've made for that world. Like it's
especially when they're like, what did you mean, like a different word? And it's because they didn't understand the word you've written in the book. They didn't actually like know the definition. That kind of thing. You were just like, you know what? I'm going to keep writing book 3. Keep going.
Yeah. I think that's. But do you know something? To speak to, I am not one, but I know a few. But to speak to the traditionally published authors, they get that too.
I bet they do.
I don't think that's necessarily an indie thing. I think the problem is that when there's an issue with the book and it incenses a reader, which, by the way, I again, to the Americans, that doesn't happen to me anyway from Irish people near as much as it would Americans. I think
no.
Irish people are very like, if something bothers you, just don't say it. Just ignore it. Just forget about it. Move on. Doesn't matter. Which
just bury it deep inside in your trauma.
Yeah. We have this little box. But I think, again, like I was saying about the hoops traditional books have to go through versus the indie one, because let's say if someone is really offended by a cover, they can email the publisher. With an indie book, they have to email the author.
Yeah, it's ease of access. Yeah, I mean, I have my email address on every. Look, I have it all over the place. Like, if you want to email me, please do. And I'm like, welcome to have those emails. It's just odd that a particular kind of email keeps coming, and you're like, it's nothing to do with me. Oh, what to do with you're writing on your end, crazy lunatics. But yeah.
No, I know what you mean.
Even trad authors, I'd say, would definitely get it as well. It's not an indie only thing.
Yeah,
I think that happens when you create anything. So you just have to kind of like, it can't bother you. If you're going to start breaking down over that, you're not going to last long in this industry.
Exactly. And like, it's funny because I remember back at Christmas 2020, just in case someone's listening to this in years to come, back at Christmas 2020, I got my first ever 1-star review, not rating, review. Yeah. And it was also the longest review I ever got.
They were in. They didn't even bother emailing you. They're like, no, everyone needs to fucking read this.
No, they put it Connor. They put it up, and it's there on Amazon. Like, go off and read it yourselves, kids. But it just made me laugh because my first instinct was, I've made it.
Yes. It's your little badge of honor, isn't it?
Yeah. And I just remember, like, I laughed and I read it, and then I put it away, and I put in that little trauma box we were talking about.
The trauma box, yeah.
I then was the next day, because I was at home for Christmas, I said to my father, I was just like, I got a 1-star review. He's like, what? And he read my book, and he actually, his exact words were, it's good and it's better than I thought it would be, which was the best compliment you could
That's
get.
The highest of praise for, I presume, an Irish daddy.
Exactly. So I read the 1-star review to him, and he was like, well, you need to reply to that. Can you reply to that?
No.
I was like, no, you don't do that. That's the worst thing you can do.
No. Never reply. What I'm trying to do is I only reply to the 5 stars. So I'm trying to like condition my reviewers to only give 5-star reviews. If you give a 5-star review, I will respond in a nice long paragraph and thank you and you're great and everything. So the 1 stars, 4 stars, I'm like, get wrecked.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, you're very good that you didn't take that Like you know of people who, if they got that review, would like literally never write again, ever, ever, ever.
Yeah. And if you're somebody listening and you're thinking like, because here's the thing, I know that this podcast goes to lots of people. In the
Yeah.
sense of there's people who listen to this just to listen to interesting stories, and maybe get a book recommendation or two. There's people who listen to this that are aspiring writers, and there's people that listen to this that are much more experienced writers than I. And my thing is, see, I think I have an unfair advantage when it comes to harsh criticism because I was bullied notoriously all through school.
Oh,
Oh
okay.
no, it's fine. It's kind of a thing of I
It's
developed.
in the trauma
It's
box.
in the trauma box. So
And
I
you've
don't
built
feel.
your personality on top of the
Yeah,
trauma box.
exactly. So like that trauma box is chock a block, and
Yeah.
but as a result, there's very much I had to survive essentially. I
Mm.
very much developed a, well, as long as I'm happy with me, then I don't care about everybody else.
Oh,
And
yes.
that's what you
Yes.
need to do when it comes to writing. When you put that book out, you need to be like, but all these people liked it. So this one, and like I'm sitting up here on my high horse saying like, oh, look how easy it is. Like it's not easy, but it's what you have to do.
It gets easier though, because
Yeah.
oh Lord, we could be here all day. But I just know, like, I'm gonna use like my pithy kind of phrases, like get out of your own way, stop caring, stop caring so much that you are in your own way. I see that all the time. Same as yourself. It's just like there's an element, a wonderful element of you've done your work. Stop caring and move on to your next work and keep going and let all those people in the dust.
And then it's funny though, because people can go too far that way and end up never listening to any criticism whatsoever.
And then the Star Wars prequels happen when no one will say anything to George Lucas.
I actually like the prequels.
Listen, we have to end the podcast now. Thanks for listening,
Thank
everybody.
you so much for coming on to the show.
Connor will be
Great.
back.
Speaking of Star Wars.
Yes, sir. Oh no, I know. I literally know where this is going. Do you ever see like a train? Do you ever hear a train coming at the track and the train is coming and you're like, oh, I'm tied to these tracks. Go on, Connor.
You are. Speaking of Star Wars,
Yes, sir.
how was your wedding?
Oh, it was great.
Now, for anyone listening, I'm like, how? Huh? What?
What is going on?
They are tied, aren't they, Eve?
Very good pun there, Connor. Wedding tied and not 5-star review. Yes, I cosplay is important to me, and I'm a grown adult. See, I'm just gonna say sentences, and hopefully they'll join up into something coherent. That's how I write. I'm a grown person. Cosplay is important to me in terms of like physicality and transformation. And people obviously can't tell from this podcast, I'm very tall. I'm like 5'11", and I think that's tall for a lady in anyone's books, okay? And it can bring up, as you probably have, lots of issues. And I'm like, but in cosplay, you can be whatever you want. So at our wedding, our very, very good friend, who is kind of like Emerald Garrison 501st level of nerdery.
Really?
Yes.
The Emerald Garrison. Okay, so for those who don't know what that is, the Emerald Garrison is essentially a group of cosplayers who cosplay as only stormtroopers, or kind of mostly stormtroopers, and then like a few other bits.
Yeah, because their costumes have to be screen accurate, I believe. Or is that the 501st? Like that's that level of cosplay. I'm like, oh lads, off you go. I'm just going to paint myself green. Yeah. Like that's my level of cosplay. But their level of cosplay is like screen accurate. Yeah.
So your friend showed up?
Like we couldn't have many at the wedding because of COVID. So we had 10, including myself, the groom, and the solemnizer. So 10 people. But one of our very good friends showed up with his legit screen accurate Sandtrooper and Stormtrooper helmets. And there's a wonderful picture on my Instagram /Twitter /any social media of myself and the new groom wearing them as our wedding photo. And it wasn't even, actually got a lot of messages from people saying, oh, do you not want to show your face? Do you not want to show his face? I was like, nah, it's the two of us on our wedding day with Star Wars helmets. It's nothing to do with, like, I show my face, his face, all, like, it's not a big deal. But also my wedding dress had a cape, which is the one thing I am very proud of and do want to say. It's kind of nearly cooler than the helmets, but yeah.
It went really well with the helmets. The cape.
I know. Like it was planned.
I thought it was. I didn't
No,
know that your friend
no,
showed
no,
up
no.
with it. Okay, that's cool. So
Because yeah, go on, go on.
what was that like? The wedding that could only have such a small amount at it, because
I highly recommend it. It's the best thing ever because, right? It's on some respects it's awful because nowhere will cater. Like you can get like dinner delivered for 2 people or like 100. It's very hard to get like a dinner for 10, like multiple courses delivered. So we kind of had to like just make do. But it is wonderful because, it's the people who are closest to you. It's the people that really give a shit. It's the people who really can like turn up, like who are able to travel because of COVID restrictions and are the people that you like. I obviously had so many people I wanted there who just literally physically couldn't come.
yeah,
And yet, but then you're like the people on the day, it's just wonderful. It was just like anyone I spoke to, I make it sound like I speak to loads of people, but anyone I spoke to, where they were like, oh yeah, I had 150 at my wedding, I had 300 at my wedding. I was like, oh no, 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 no,
yeah, that's a
no.
lot.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah,
But the 10 was just lovely. It was here in the house here. And I mean, our back garden is small enough. But yeah, everyone sits out. It was the longest day of the year, beautiful sunny day. And just one of those kind of days in your life that genuinely went off without a hitch. I got to like get hitched to the person of your dreams, that's like your person. And you're like, I'm like, I want everyone to have that joy if they want to be paired up someday. It's very interesting. But even like, and you can kind of nerd out a bit because even like the wedding say bands, they look like big gold honkabonks. That's tungsten. That's
yeah,
not gold at all. It'll never tarnish and it won't scratch. But I'm like, don't spend stupid money on rings. Like, get a lump of tungsten. You can be yourself within the confines of wedding. And I could spend a long time talking about being a woman on the internet getting married and all the ads and all the shite that comes along. And I'm to have an opinion on everything. I have no opinions. So yeah, it was genuinely one of the best days. And it kind of, those days that are in your mind and these kind of, they're almost mythical. You're like, did that really happen? But it did.
that's good. That's good. I can see by your face you're very happy about the wedding and everything, because I know it's funny because recently in the news in Ireland, there was weddings were changed from 50 to 100, and there was a now I don't know if you know this, Eve, there was a protest, and for listeners I'm doing air quotes, outside the Dáil, which is the government,
Yeah.
of a couple a small handful of women, to be fair, like 10 at the most, wearing white dresses, not wedding dresses, wearing white dresses with signs saying, don't cancel love, and let us celebrate, and all this kind of thing. Now, here's the thing: a lot of people thought that was brides to be protesting, wanting a big wedding.
Oh, was it not?
And it wasn't. They were all wedding planners. They were wedding planners who were very clever and strategic. And if you think about it, it was a really structured thing. They had the national news network there for a protest of 10 people. They had the national news. They had photographers. They were very, it was very more like a product launch than it was a protest. And yeah, it bugged me. And it's so funny because so many people online are like, oh my God, like there's like, when someone has, at the minute in Ireland, when someone has a baby, their partner isn't allowed in the same room.
Yeah.
And then people are protesting and demanding weddings. Yeah, because it's wedding planners. They want to make money again. So that just bugged me.
I think the whole bridal industry complex annoys me immensely. And having gone through it with a job and writing a book and trying to be a person outside of all that, like I fully understand where bridezillas come from. I fully understand the extremes those wedding planners would go to. It's very interesting what they do to women, brides. Not so much grooms, of course, just in terms of like the targeting.
Grooms can be bridezillas too. I
No,
mean,
no, I fully accept that, and
I know,
absolutely,
but
absolutely.
there are definitely like not to be stereotypical to my own people, but there are definitely gay couples where there'll be one man who is more or less becomes the bridezilla because he wants everything to be perfect. But I think partially that comes from, you know, a lot of men our age and older, really our age up, who are gay, grew up thinking they could never get married.
Yeah. And
So
that's the opportunity of their lifetime. Probably like, and they are the first in their generation. And yeah, I think bridezilla is definitely a gender neutral term because you've seen some male bridezillas. You're like, that is the most gender neutral phrase in existence.
it's crazy. So come here,
Yes, sir.
you planned a wedding, you held down a full-time job, and you managed to get your sequel out. So
Yes.
what's that been like? Because when you were on the podcast last, if I recall, you and which, by the way, there's a link to the other episode with Eve, the first episode with Eve, in the description, so listen to that as well. It's really good. You were only kind of starting book 2 at that point.
Yeah.
So you managed to get it done, edit it yourself, I'm assuming. Then
I hear another train coming. I hear the train coming.
Send it to an editor. Then you had the cover designed, which I think is very interesting. So
yeah, I've all the covers designed for the whole series. Yeah.
Which is very, very interesting. So how difficult was that? How did you manage it? What did you have to sacrifice to get that done, to put it to hit the nail on the head?
You know, I do get people asking me that, even like DMs, say on Twitter. I'm in a job I hate. I can't be creative. I go home and I want to write. I can't write. What do I do? And I'm like, if it is your main quest, and I'm coming back to my bullshit, you keep going. But what are you sacrificing? There's a wonderful phrase of you tilt your way towards success. You don't go about this in a way that goes against who you are. I'm a very personality-wise or whatever, I'm an indoorsy person. I'm a hermit. I don't like going out. I don't like big groups of people. I don't like pubs. So that gives me a lot of time in the house. But again, a lot of people are like that, and they could like to spend their time cleaning, spend their time faffing around with making a capsule wardrobe, faff around on the internet, playing video games. Like you can be, say, have no social life and also faff around. I think people need to kind of figure that part out. I'm like, I integrated the main quest into my day. So what does that look like? Say, I'm pausing because I've done a lot of like research into this and how do you actually do it and what works for me. And I think that's where the labor goes in. That's where the time is expended, not so much on the writing and the balancing and it's figuring out what works for you. And the minute you hit upon one thing that works for you, that's what'll open it all up. That'll what'll make it happen for you. So in my example, it's I signed up for a course and it was like, it's called, I think, the Makers Business Foundation. And it's an online course for particularly women, I think, who make crafts. And I approached it like, well, indie authoring is quite like crafting. What have these guys got to say? And it was the most kind of main lesson I learned from that is you get to do 3 things in your week, not even your day. You do 3 things. And then
you say that again. The internet juttered. This is something I'm going to have to edit. You said about the course, it was a Makers Business Foundation.
Yes.
And it was the most, that's all I heard.
It was the most, I'll rephrase it to make myself sound so much better. It was the most impactful, educational, eye-opening course I've done. I highly recommend it. If you do anything creative at all, you may think, I'm not a crafter. I'm a fucking indie author. I write about vampires and zombies. I took this. It's so good. And even if you just subscribe to the blog or their social media, the tips you'll get are brilliant. Anyway, you get to do 3 things in a week, in a day. One of those will be probably a full-time job. The other thing will probably be all your other real life stuff. If you've got kids or caring, even looking after yourself, your exercise, your meditation, blah. And you get to do one other thing. And so many people I speak to are like, oh yeah, and I'm learning French and I'm doing Zumba classes and I'm doing reupholstering and I'm showing my dogs. And you're like, no, you get one.
I'm making jam.
Making jam and like the lids and the tartan. No, you get one. Because what happens is you try to do it all and you fail at everything, and you don't whole heart one thing. Whole ass one thing. That's what Ron Swanson's told us in Parks and Rec. And that's the advice I give anything. Look, and you may think that all the things you're doing are so fucking important and they're so fucking essential to your life, but something has got to give. You have to balance it somehow. So, like yourself, Connor, you said you get up early and write. Great. Some people do it at night. Great. What I do is I fold it into my day. So say I start my day at 8 o'clock. So I'll do 30 minutes of my full-time job and kind of clear the decks for the day. Then I'll do 30 minutes where I will get up from my computer like a Pavlovian bell ringing little doggy. Go write 30 minutes. Next thing is the kind of what I call the IRL 30 minutes of everything from have you flossed? Do your bangs need trimming? Where's the washing? Do you need to scrub the yard? IRL stuff. So I just do 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes across those three things throughout the whole day.
And then you do that in a cycle. You go,
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And there's no like, oh, I'm just going to like stop for lunch for an hour. Got to sacrifice your lunch. Get your lunch in the IRL block. And I know that sounds harsh. And that's not going to work for everybody. If you have kids or you don't work from home, that's not going to work for you. But as I said before, it's finding the lock and the key that will unlock it. Like, pare stuff down. What can you sacrifice? Like, some people think if you don't write first thing in the morning that, oh, you can't write for the rest of the whole day. I think if you have that attitude, you're gonna sleep in sometime. You're gonna be hungover. You're gonna be sick. You have to like slot it in when and where you can. And that's literally how I got book 2 out in 6 months. And it's how I'll get book 3 out before Christmas. Little by little, every day. As a gamer, do not underestimate little, small, incremental, often.
To use a gamer term,
yes, sir.
I am a gamer as well.
Excellent.
You're grinding. That's what it is.
Oh, yeah. Do you know when you just hit the word nail on the head? Grinding.
That's what I'm here
grinding.
Yeah, because that's the thing. You know, you Final Fantasy VII, my favorite
best video game of all time.
I know. Although
I want to cosplay Sephiroth.
9 and 10, also very good. We're not. This is now a Final Fantasy podcast. Hi, everybody.
Hi, welcome.
Final
Sephiroth Eve XOXO 900.
Was that your MSN?
My Hotmail account. Oh no. No, I literally have a grey wig in the what I call the cosplay closet, and I'm like, I have the knee boots, and I'm just like, someone buy me a sword. Carry on. Sorry, you mentioned Final Fantasy VII, and oh Jesus.
We went on a massive tangent. So I remember the very first time I got to the Northern Cave in it, which is the final dungeon of the main storyline, folks, for those who haven't played. And I remember reading in PlayStation Now magazine.
With the free demo discs?
With the free demo disc every month, which that stopped, which is an awful shame. But anyway, it said that when you beat the final boss in the game, Sephiroth, the final FMV is a half an hour long. And I was so excited to find out what's going to happen in the story, that I asked my mum to drive me to the town.
Oh.
We bought popcorn.
Oh, no.
And my brother was so excited. He was 5 years younger than me, still is. And we sat down, my brother and I, and we popped the popcorn, and I started going through the Northern Cave, which is, as I said, the final dungeon, thinking, this is it, I'm going to do it. No, I wasn't ready. For reference, my highest level character was level 45.
Oh, for the Northern, no.
For the Northern Cave, no. You need to be
99.
Minimum 55 to get through the cave. And then
you need your Knights of the Round linked with MP Turbo and your Phoenix linked with Final Attack. I'm doing the materia slots here now. I can see it. It's the...
You're not wrong. But
hang on. No, Cloud's ultimate weapon.
It was just ultimate weapon.
Sephiroth was the Masamune. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Karen.
So that was the thing. It was like you can say to yourself, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to sit down for 2 hours and I'm going to whack out 5,000 words in 2 hours. And it's like, no. You some people do that, and some people are able to do that, but they didn't start by doing that.
Nope.
And you need to grind your levels up. You need to, like you said, with those skills, the IRL skills, it's the same with writing skills. You need to gradually build them up until you're at a place that you're able to, like I do, sit down for 15 minutes every
Mm.
morning before I do anything, like literally before I even eat, drink anything. And I can whack out 5 to 6.
Really? You're
Mhm.
not running on coffee or anything?
No. Literally, I wake up.
Mm.
Now this is during the work week,
Yeah,
during
yeah,
the
yeah.
work, wake
Oh,
up.
I don't write on weekends either. Like my weekends are sacred. Like I don't. Yeah, go on.
I wake up and I
Mm.
get dressed, walk on with the laptop. I bought a new laptop and it turns on like that. Amazing.
That feel.
Turn it on, open up Scrivener, and I actually headphones on, music playing, specific music, and then go on to Google, timer 15 minutes, and I go. And when that Google alarm goes off, close down the laptop, pack up my stuff, and go to work. And that's how I get stuff done. But the only, like, some people say to me, like, can you really get 600 and something words? And like, my record is 675 words in 15 minutes.
Oh.
And that's crazy. I know that. But again, as I said, I built up to that. The Olympics are on right now. You don't, like Sarah Webb, a very well-known children's author in Ireland. I've had her on the podcast before, and she said the same thing. Like, she says to kids, when you're interested in running, you don't go straight for the Olympics. You start at the small local competitions, the community games.
Yeah.
And then you go to the national stuff, and then you train. And it's the same thing with writing. It's the same thing. Like, I'm sure you didn't start off with your 30 minutes.
No, because that's kind of the problem with writing as a career or an objective, is that you know yourself, you're on Twitter and suddenly you say, oh, debut author, 16 months old, gets 19-figure deal with blah, worldwide distribution, a Netflix special, 10 movies. Like, those are the outliers to an extreme degree. And I think people think they'll write a book and suddenly their life will change or it'll take off. And maybe it does for like the 0.990011, whatever.
Yeah.
But for the rest of us, and I think there's no problem in believing that you'll be the exception. I believe in believing you will be the exception, because at some point you have to be. I do believe you must temper your expectations at the same time. So I do think, you know yourself, seeing someone, you can't see the work that went behind that person's deal. You don't know the hours, you don't know the tears, you don't know the pain, you don't know their story.
And as well, you don't, like, just because they're a debut author doesn't mean they only started writing.
And it doesn't mean it's their only book. They could have written other books under another pen name.
Yeah.
I know people who have like dozens of novels. Then they're like, oh, I want to write thrillers now. And they have a new pen name. And it's their debut book all over again.
Yeah. Like, here's me writing the sequel to The Longest Night. I took a lot of leaves out of your book, actually, after our initial chat.
What?
Planning the series and everything. So I have my whole series planned now.
Look at you. How many books, Connor?
It's going to be 4.
Yeah.
The first book's called The Longest Night, which is the winter solstice. So there are 4 special events to do with the sun and the amount of time of the sun is in the sky. So I thought 4 books. So there's going to be one for the winter solstice, one for the spring equinox, one for the summer solstice, and one for the autumn equinox. But anyway.
Well, see, I got married on the summer solstice, so I'm like, I feel the affinity and the kinship with that. Go on.
So the what I think is interesting is people, like, I've lost my point.
You basically were saying how great my plan was, and you took a leaf out of my book. And
yeah. But before that, what I was saying was, even though I'm writing the book that's going to be my second published book, I actually this is my 5th book to write.
Oh yeah.
See what I mean? So like, like, that's the thing I don't think people get, is that, just because someone's a debut author, you shouldn't be beating yourself up. It's like that whole thing of, you should never stay longer than 20 minutes on any social media platform, because you'll start seeing people having these amazing lives, and you're scrolling through, and you're lying on your couch and it's raining outside, and you're looking at your friend and your boyfriend and their holidays in Kerry going, why am I in Kerry?
Yeah, and you can see your own double chin in the reflection of your phone, and it's just like, it's not a good look.
No.
I think what's wonderful though is, as an indie author, you soon learn very quickly, social media is bullshit. It is smoke and mirrors. It is nonsense. It is fluff. It means nothing, because everyone who writes has to come to the desk, to the blank page, to the empty keyboard. Everyone who writes has to do that. And whatever they post on social media,
that's what
is mostly nonsense. That's what they want to share. Because I've done social media for like the different groups and different authors, and I do my own social media, blah. It's an algorithm. I have a spreadsheet of what to post when over the course of a month, in terms of like the type of posts and the combination of them. That is a formula done, produced by an algorithm. So don't listen to social media. It's bullshit. It
But
really
having
is.
said that, it's like everything. It has a good side of the coin. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
you and I got to know each other because of Twitter,
Yeah.
and it was Stephen Black who was on season 1. Go back and listen.
Stephen, shout out to Stephen.
Stephen was the one who kind of introduced us, and like it's this thing of, you have to understand that social media is and what it's supposed to do, and then when you start manipulating the algorithm to show you what you want, that's why again I say TikTok. Oh my god, that algorithm is amazing. Like, I will spend hours on TikTok if I'm not careful, because it knows what I want to see. Like, I don't think I ever searched for anything Dungeons and Dragons related on it. And day 3 of having it, D&D started showing up. I was
You're
like,
a D&D boy.
I'm the DM of
you are.
Yes. You were supposed to be on
it's literally that train is just hitting me right now. I just went chunk.
How many trains are going to hit you today?
Too many. I'm only one person. I'm very small.
We're running out of time, and
I know.
It's mad because we haven't. I feel like we haven't really talked about anything, but we've talked loads. There was one thing you said before we hit record, and if this is too big a conversation, if you don't think you can we can have our say in it in 5-ish minutes. That's fine.
5 minutes, fucking hell. Okay,
to give you time to say goodbye. So, you said something about you think it's so unfair that you're expected to be an indie author and have a full-time job, and the unfairness of it all.
Right? But that's real life. That is what real life.
No, I know it's real life. No, but you sent me down a path.
Okay.
One thing I find unfair about indie publishing is that there are 2 branches, let's say, of indie authors. There's the indie authors who take themselves, not in a bad way, take their career as an author very seriously. They will hire editors. They
facilitate themselves.
Yes, right? So they get everything done. And then there's the authors who, they're just delighted they got a book done, and they're just like, let's just put it out there, and they put it out, and they just make their cover themselves, which can work if that's what you can do. No, it can. I know people who, like, there's someone who's on this podcast. She is a book designer by trade.
Well, she's trained then. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm not talking about, like, I'm talking about MS Paint kind of jobs, which I've seen.
No.
Carry on.
That's what I was wondering. Like, do you find it unfair that you who take yourself seriously, you take your career seriously as an author, that when you say you're indie author, that people get that impression of the indie author who doesn't get the editor and doesn't put a huge amount of work in, maybe because they can't afford it, or maybe because they don't have the patience or something? Like, how does that hit you?
Don't give a shit. I don't care. I don't care what people think of. Do you know what I care about? Why I'm an indie author? I'm writing stories that publishers aren't going to listen to anyway. I'm never going to have any luck trad publishing. So that's B. As an indie author, you get 70% of cover royalties. And you're flexible and you're agile. If there's something wrong in a book from 10 years ago, you can get that document back up, change it, put it back online again. The agility. I know the strengths that come from indie publishing. They're very powerful, and people don't realize them yet because the career is still in its infancy. It's still the Wild West. There are still those 2 branches of the indie author who is delighted to have a book up and will just throw it up on Amazon. And then what kills me was when they wonder why it's not selling.
Yeah.
And you're like, you could have done a little research and realized. I'm talking about myself. I could have done a little bit of research and realized there is a science to this. Like, I mean, when I went down the rabbit hole of, okay, I published my first book, Rise of One. It's not that it didn't, like, obviously didn't become the international bestseller that we all wished it was. However, I did have success with it. I sold more than the average indie book will in 6 months than an indie book will in a year. So I'm like, okay, I'm doing something right. How do I improve upon that? But
that's what I mean. You're taking your career seriously when you do that. You're stepping back objectively and saying, okay, this book sold this much. Here's what I did so you're trying to analyze like, what did I do that made it sell, and what can I improve on to make the next one sell more?
But also like research and learn. So I've been really looking into, the kind of the indie author who is like the apex, what I call the Chad indie author, the rapid release indie author of the 93 book series, and like earns 27 million figures a month.
Like a book a month, nearly, those kind of guys.
Yeah, the kind of high churn, as I call it. I look at those people and I read what they write about indie publishing, and I'm like, okay. So the optimum number of books in a series is actually 9, because I know we're running out of time, but here's a lesson in being an indie author. Anyway, let's go. Like, just fucking edit the whole podcast down to these last 3 seconds.
Okay.
So I learned from someone who has done it, and from someone who is earning the mega bucks per month, not just from somewhere I pulled out of my backside. Okay, 9 books is the key for an indie author to write in a series. 1, well done, Connor, is because, of course, for 9 titles is really fucking long. You're going to have a huge amount of what's called read through. If someone reads book 1 and likes it, odds are they'll read the 8 other books. Fingers crossed, hopefully. B, you can then take 3 books, 3 books, 3 books, and create volumes.
3 box sets, 3 trilogies.
Yeah. So say volume 1 is 1 to 3, volume 2 is other mathematical numbers,
4 to 6.
And so that they can be published alongside the 9 books. They do not replace them on Amazon.
Products.
Yes. And then you have what are called the whale readers, who will buy a 9-book omnibus, either ebook, paperback, or Audible. Do not neglect your audiobooks. So you have, say, 3 layers of product. You have your 9 books, you have your 3 volumes, you have your 9 omnibus volume. The thing is, nobody teaches you that. It's in a book by some guy who's really fucking taking in all the money and who lays it out straight, and I'm happy to pay for that information. But the thing is, I know this, and now you all know this. Who's going to sit down and write 9 books? Who's actually going to do that?
Yeah.
Do you have the grit to do that? Do you believe this guy? I mean, obviously you can't. You can go to Amazon and see his fucking, you can see his rankings, and then you can put that ranking into a little Google thing, and that'll tell you how much he's earning per month. And he is earning exactly how much you're thinking.
I'm happy.
So those are the people I will take advice from, but you must act on that advice.
See, that's the thing I think a lot of people do. And I think I'm a bit of a criminal in this, because one thing I don't do, to be perfectly honest, I don't have the time to learn to do it right, because I have the podcast as well as writing, as well as full-time job, as well as D&D, as well as,
and IRL.
I don't do any paid advertising whatsoever. I don't have the time to figure it out. So any book I sell is purely from me existing on the internet and talking to people. So every book I sell is an organic sell, we'll say.
Wow, Connor.
Right? Now, you say, wow, Connor, we're talking like 5 a month, Yeah,
that's more than 0. And you'd be surprised how many zeros there are. Yeah. And every book sale is a victory, because it is every new potential reader. Like, I'm not trying to blow smoke up your arse. That's genuinely how I approach it as well. But I like to take the lessons from the big wigs.
Like you said, like I've read those books and I'm like, right, okay, I need to, but like, you need to read and then you need to actually follow through on the advice, because it's not enough to say, now I know how to do advertising, and then not do advertising.
Yeah. Like, I've done the AMS courses and I run AMS ads. Do I know what I'm doing? No. But like, if I didn't do those AMS ads, I would never know that 20% of my sales now come from Germany. Should I look into a German translation at the end of the series? Should I stick at my 5 books or extend it to 9? It's only by researching and taking that new information on board.
But it's only when you're serious about something that you have the foresight.
But do you want it to be your main quest or not?
Yeah. And
I'm going to, like, I've been at I've been at the literary festivals. I've been in the fucking Irish Writers Centre at their like seminars and all the rest. If you come up to me and lean in and grin and go, I'm a bit of a dabbler myself when it comes to writing. Like, are you a dabbler or do you want to be a writer? What do you want to be? It's fine to be a dabbler. Go, but then don't complain when you don't have sales because you didn't research key index. It's like, literally, as you said, it's like going to run around a track. I could maybe walk kind of fast around a track, But if I want to win the gold medal, you're going to have to learn and apply yourself.
Yeah.
It's about your own goals and what your main quest looks like.
No Olympian got there without thinking about it and practicing and training, and no author is going to get there without thinking about it and practicing and training.
Yeah. And if like you hear 9 books and you're really intimidated, please do not be. You have the rest of your life. You can also ignore my bullshit and your man's bullshit. There are other ways. You know, we all know that one person who wrote a book and suddenly they're a multimillionaire on one book. We all know them. So their journey is not your journey. It's like finding your methods of writing and getting it done. You can listen to other people and learn from them, but apply them to your own situation and make them work for you. I think too many people go, oh, 9 books. Nope, never. Oh, I'm never writing a word again.
Yeah. So that's from 2 authors who have one published book under their name each. But I think this is the thing about us as Irish people, to come full circle. I hope that we are pretty realistic in terms of that. We know, listen, I'll write the book, and sure, if it sells, it sells. And if it does well, great. And if it doesn't, I put my ring into the hat and it's fine. You know? And I do think there is sometimes an attitude that's not okay, but it is okay to try something, and I mean, aim for success and plan for it, and definitely try your best to get there. But if it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen, and that's not a bad reflection on you. You know?
Best advice ever is never be afraid to be seen trying. And yet in Ireland, to be seen trying is anathema to college. Like, yeah. But never, like, that's one thing, especially on like Twitter. I'm myself on Twitter. Who you see on Twitter is who I am. Oh God. It's that kind of humor and that kind of, I'm not afraid to be seen trying. I couldn't give a shit. This is my main quest. Let me go. I'll have book 3 out by Christmas. If you want to begrudge, I'll build a fort around you with my books. Good luck to you.
Eve, that's a great way to end the podcast. This is the very first time I've had someone come back, so it's great to have a totally different format. We're just chilling and chatting.
Mega bands, as we would say.
Mega bands, having all the bands. Will you tell anyone and everyone where's the best place to find you? Which, by the way, I just realized I've called you Eve the whole podcast, which is your name, I know, but I never said this is Eve writes under the name Dixon Rule.
For all the people who made it to the end of this podcast.
Whoops.
It's fine. My kind of weird little profile picture will surely guide the way across the internet. My books are available on Amazon, in all the Amazon territories, ebook and paperback, with audiobooks to follow at the end of the series, because that's a whole other kettle of fish. Yes, and if you're lost, you don't know what's happening, if you want to read a good book about kind of like ever so slightly like queer vampires hiding out in a zombie apocalypse and then having to like re-enter the destroyed world, you go to dixonreel.com and there's a free ebook for you there, and you get signed up to my mailing list. And my mailing list, people, I never like advertise it, but you get some stuff. That's all I'm saying. You get teams.
I'm on it.
Are you?
Yes. Eve, you're looking at me. I
am because I'm just thinking of like MailChimp is my newsletter provider, and it gives me all these metrics of where people have signed up from, and there's nobody from Ireland, and I'm like, Connor, I'm calling you out on your own podcast.
That's my phone's turned off. I'm going to
okay.
In the show notes there will be a screenshot of an email I got from Eve on her newsletter. Anyway, Eve, thank you so much for on the show.
Thank you so much, Connor.
It's been fantastic.
Thank you to everybody for listening. You're also good. Support Connor. He's doing magical things for the writing community and bringing people together, and even just providing this platform to kind of shite on about books and life and the kind of interplay. Like, that's rare on the internet. So support him, and we'll continue our support for Connor.
Thank you.